There we go. Yeah, the mic was turned off in the program. Well, I knew something was going to happen. Something always happens with this stupid program that I'm forced to use to stream on YouTube. Ugh. Yeah, here we go. Okay, should I start over? Should I start from the beginning? It's only 2 games in. Oh, Christ. Okay, so Kabuki Quantum Fighter. Never had this back in the day. Really wanted it. Never could afford it. I didn't have a lot of money when I was a little kid. Allowance, lunch money, whatever. Finally picked this up a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed it. Love the animation. The gameplay is great. The music is catchy, and I really enjoy it. I would have really liked this one back in the day if I ever did have it. The other one was The Karate Kid, and the only reason... We love your voice, bro. No silent movie bullshit. Yeah, the mic was turned off in the program. Don't ask me why. It's Karate Kid I had to purchase because at Gen Con a couple years ago, or 3 years ago, something like that, found a bunch of boxed NES games at their auction. Bought them. Went back to the Johnny Rockets that's in the mall attached to the convention center, and was looking through the games to see how good a condition they were. And there was an extra manual in one of the games, and the manual was to the Karate Kid. So I was like, what do I do about this? I guess I'll just have to buy the game. So went on eBay that night at my hotel room, found the box and the game together, and made it complete with the manual that I had in that other game. But I had this one back in the day. I remember I bought this for like $6 or $7 at KB Toys because I was pretty late to the party on the NES. I got it like in Christmas 1989, I think. So there was like 4 years of games out there, and KB Toys was trying to clearance out all the older stuff. So I remember going there every week to buy a new game with the lunch money that I refused to spend on food at school. I would save it, and then at the end of the week, I'd go and hang out with a friend, and we'd go to the mall, and I'd always buy a new game at KB Toys. And I bought this one. I always enjoyed it. I mean, it's not great. It's not really that good. It's fun in spurts, like the whole dodging the blade thing that's on a pendulum. I was pretty good at. I was really good at catching the fly with the chopsticks. But the platforming is a bitch because the blowback from getting hit, you knock back, and like the enemies, if they're on different levels, they just can gang up on you without you being able to get a hit off. But I enjoyed it. It was entertaining for what it was. Yeah, Bro Magnin. Yeah, what's up, Brotato Chip? Yeah, I was way late to the NES party. My parents refused to buy us an NES when I was a kid because we had an Atari 2600. And as far as my parents were concerned, that's all we needed until we, like in 1989, I think that was when we just started whining about how everyone else has an NES and we don't. We're so behind. We love games. Why do you hate us so much? And I think my parents teamed up with my grandmother and got us an NES that year. Christmas 89 we got it. I think with a copy of Contra. I think was the first game we got. But yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of games at the start. We only had, the Super Mario Brothers. We had Mario Brothers 2, Contra, and one other game maybe from the start. But like I said, by then they were all discounted and cheap. And I wanted to say, since the audio problem happened, that this is going to be the remainder of my NES collection. I know that's the video's titled Famicom through NES. I did all the Famicom and Famicom Disk System games last video, and then I talked about my NES games A through J. So today is K through Z, and there's a lot of them, so it's going to take a while, so I'm going to go pretty fast. So we already got those first 2 games. We got Kabuki Quantum Fighter and Karate Kid. Got Karnov. Hey, Renaissance. Let's talk about Karnov. I hate this game. I really do. I do not like the mechanics of it. I do not like the controls. I do not like the graphics. I do not like the music. I do not like anything about it. But it's nostalgic because this was one of those games that I had purchased at KB Toys, dirt cheap, back when I was a kid. And, couldn't get games very often. My parents would normally not let us rent games all that often either. So, like, when you had a game, when you got a new one, you played the crap out of it regardless if it was good or not. And I didn't like it. I can never get into this one. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever seen the arcade game that this is based on, but that's just me. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I know, Karnov doesn't like me either. He has stinky breath, and dinosaurs are chasing him all the time, so maybe it's for the best. Kid Nicky, Radical Ninja, picked this up at a half-price books. It was sitting in their case, complete, for $20, and I said, there's no way that is not coming home with me. And it's in great condition. And this is one of those games I remember a bunch of my friends had. I never had it myself. But I played it a lot at the friends' houses, and I love it. There's There's like 2 or 3 other games in this series in Japan. And yeah, I absolutely adore it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's like a it's a platformer. The cool thing is like your character has this sword that on the cover looks like it belongs to Conan. In reality, it looks like the glaive from Krull. Karnov is one I've always wanted to like too, but I can't get into it. I mean, there's stuff in it that's cool. I just I don't get why the fire breath does what it does. Like it kind of goes diagonally down, then goes along the ground. The ladder, like the power up things, the things you pick up, like the ladders and all that. I just don't like it at all. I don't. Here's a weird one. It's King's Knight. This was, I think, Square's first game. What is up, Sir HC Man? How's it going? Yeah, Kid Nicky's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I actually am thinking about going on eBay at some point and trying to find the other games in the series so I can try them out too. King's Knight's kind of like a weird version of a shmup. An auto-scroll shmup. You're moving vertically up the screen, and there's blocks and stuff in your way, and you can shoot them, and you basically have to shoot them because otherwise you're going to die, because if they catch you and pull you down to the bottom and you get pushed off screen dead. But there's power-ups all over the place. It's okay. It's strange. It's quirky. But I enjoy it a little bit. It's not too bad. I got this really cheap. This was one of those games I got right off the bat when I got back into collecting. And I found it on eBay pretty cheap. So I was not sad. So, yeah. And it's Square's first NES game, as far as I remember. Here's a good one. Kirby's Adventure. Never played this back in the day. This is the first legit Kirby game I ever played. And I picked this up from a friend on Facebook 3 years ago, maybe. And first time I ever played a Kirby game was with this, when I bought it from him. And it's really fun. It's really childish, really easy, but the mechanics are solid, and I love the fact that you can suck a character in and then absorb their powers a little bit. It's kind of cool, because I think this came after the Game Boy game. I think the Game Boy game was the original one, which I own also. But really cool mascot of Nintendo's. I think, was it HAL that made this one? I think HAL made this one. Yes, HAL Laboratory. I enjoy it, and the franchise is still going strong. I mean, there's still games coming out for this with this character now. I enjoy it. I enjoy King's Knight, Sir HC Man. I enjoy it. It's just, like I said, it's just weird. It's different. Like I said, it was their first game, so they were trying to do something different. It didn't work completely, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. King's Knight, that one is rough. Yeah, it's all right. You get buying all the games that I already got, man. I should have done this 2 days ago. That way I could say that it was all because of me. Okay. Classic Kung Fu. I don't know why there is an asterisk after the name. Should I look that up? Maybe. Copyright IREM. Nintendo licensed this from IREM. Nice. I think this was called Kung Fu Hero in the arcade. But it's a basic action game. Running along, kick people in the face, punch people in the dick, move on to the next stage. I played this all the time back in the day, and it was kind of a funny thing because I've mentioned it before. I'll probably talk about it when I get to my Master System games in another video, that my uncle bought a Master System for when all the kids would come over to visit. So they would have something to do, because the adults would sit upstairs in the living room and the family room and drink and chat all night long, and then the kids would all go down to the basement and watch movies and whatever. And one of the games my uncle had was... what's it called? I can never remember the name of it. Black Belt. It's very similar to this. I mean, kind of, except Black Belt was a Fist of the North Star game that was turned into a generic game because of violence. But I always thought it was kind of funny. I'd be talking about Black Belt to my friends. Oh, I played Black Belt at my uncle's house this Christmas. It was amazing. And everyone would be like, fuck you, Kung Fu's where it's at. And it would be this ongoing thing. I always found it was kind of funny. In the end, I did like Kung Fu more, because Black Belt was a little clunky. Makes sense, pretty husband, Holy Diver. Here is the game that I purchased at Gen Con that made me buy Karate Kid. The extra instruction book, the one for Karate Kid, was stuffed inside this. And it pains me to talk about this one because it was such a wasted opportunity, and that is The Last Starfighter. Never played this one back in the day because I have something against Mindscape, the company that released this, and I will talk about it when I get to another game. It's a few games away from now. But this was actually a game called like Iridion or Iridian, something like that. It was a Commodore 64 game. Mindscape bought the rights to it. It was made by someone else. And they turned it into a Last Starfighter game and just threw it out for everyone to buy. Everyone was like, oh, look, there's a Last Starfighter game. This is so awesome. They play it and like, what the hell is this? This has nothing to do with it, that movie. Nothing, except the fact that the ship you play as looks like the Starfighter, I guess. I can't remember what they called him in the movie. Death Blossom. But yeah, it's a terrible game. Terrible. But I got the Karate Kid instruction book in it too, so I guess that's saying something. It's bad. It's really bad. Legendary Wings. It's another shmup from Capcom, vertically scrolling and horizontally scrolling, if I remember correctly. But it's pretty cool. It's kind of like playing Dragon Spirit a little bit. I had this one back in the day. This is one of those games that I had picked up at KB Toys when I was a kid. Played it all the time, despite the fact that I thought it was extremely hard. But it's fun. You play as a little winged guy, and you're just taking out other winged people and winged creatures and whatever. Dragons. And I remember that mouth thing frightening the hell out of me every time I saw it. But it's a pretty decent game. Here's another one that I picked up at KB Toys, Legend of Kage. I always enjoyed this one. I want to say this was based on an arcade game of some sort. Or I saw something that was similar to this in the arcade, I guess. But it's a action game, side-scrolling action game. The only thing is your character jumps like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon high. Like, for no reason. Just, woo! He's gone. I got all the lights on. Yeah, it's a little dark in here today. But I enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. A lot of ninja shenanigans going on. Ninja stars flying all over the place. I enjoyed it. I always considered Demon Sword for the NES like an unofficial sequel to this. Like a sequel that wasn't called Legend of Kage. Because it plays exactly the same. Legacy of the Wizard. I never know what to call this. It's kind of role-playing and kind of not. It's more of just an adventure game. But I really enjoyed this one back in the day, despite the fact that a couple of my friends were not fans of it. But I didn't have a lot of experience with RPGs back then, so for me, this was pretty fun. So I'm not going to complain. I picked this up. I seriously, I think I got this off of eBay for about $10, complete in the box. I don't know if that means that the game is poo-poo, or people consider it poo-poo, that they're selling it for so little amount of money, but I was happy because I was able to add that to my collection relatively cheaply. Unlike The Legend of Zelda, yes, this is the gold cart version. You can see it in there. This was one of the first games that I really splurged on when I got back into collecting. I was really mad that I ended up selling this when I lost my job in 2011. I really wanted to keep it because this is one of my favorite games of all time. But you know, I wanted this back in my collection so bad that I went on eBay and I paid like way too much for it. But I played the crap out of it when it showed up, and I kind of got my money's worth because I've been playing it, you know, over the years I bought this probably in 2013. So I've been playing it pretty steadily since 2013, you know, trying to master it as much as I can whenever I have time. Classic adventure game, everybody knows. People are still streaming that and the second game a lot nowadays, which makes me happy. Life Force. Let's see here. This is one of my favorite shmups. I was not big into shmups back in the day, and this is 88. Wow. I was not really big into shmups, but this was one that I was really into, and I did not need to use any sort of a slowdown controller or whatever it was. Like, I think it was the NES Advantage that had the slow-mo thing. I needed to use that to play Abadox. I remember that much. I don't think I ever used it on this. But I love the idea of you inside a living being, and you're destroying it from the inside out. I thought that was fantastic. Way back in the day, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And another cool thing is this has both vertically and horizontally scrolling levels, which is pretty cool. And the music is super catchy. Although, it turns out this is not the best way to play this game. I mean, this is the only way I was able to play it back in the day, but there's one for the TurboGrafx 16 or the PC Engine that I have that is fantastic. There's one I have it for the Saturn. I mean, there's way better versions of this game out there, because this one has way too much slowdown, which is my big complaint about it. Little Nemo the Dream Master. This is one that my brother got back in the day, and we didn't really... Okay, this is weird. We didn't really like it when we first got it, because we were expecting it to be more Mega Man, and there was like mechanics in it that we didn't expect and we didn't think were very much fun. Now I love it. I absolutely adore it now. Like the whole jumping in, getting inside of an animal, like the frog and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't like the small hitbox that your character had, like when that little staff that he had that would shoot. It was just kind of clunky back in the day. I didn't like it. My brother didn't like it either. He ended up just giving it to me because he's like, I don't want it, you take it. And nowadays I would probably be like, yes, give it to me. I'll take it all day long. That sounded really perverted. Sorry. But nowadays I really love it. I think this is based on a comic book of some sort. But it's a classic as far as I'm concerned. Okay, here's one that people don't talk about. I absolutely love it. This is another one of those games I got at KB Toys, dirt cheap. It is called Low G Man. Low Gravity Man, if you want to know what the G stands for. Taxan was one of my favorite developers back then, next to like Konami and not Capcom, Konami and Sunsoft. And Rare also, but then again, I wasn't a big Rare fan until later on. But the cool thing about this is it looks and it plays a lot like the G.I. Joe games that came out for the NES. The only thing is your character like can jump obscenely high as well, and you have this really cool staff weapon that you use, and you can like stab down on things. You can get into vehicles and ride them around for a while. I absolutely love this game. This is a game nobody talks about. I think everybody should own a copy of it. It's different. It's unique. I absolutely adore it. The music is catchy as hell. The gameplay is great. The graphics are nice. I mean... It's pretty cool. I really enjoy this one. Everybody needs this in their collection. Little Nemo's awesome. The movie and the game. There's a movie? What? Movie? What? I was not aware of that. Low G-Man is so good, dude. You need it. You need it. Okay. Now we're going to get into some dark shit. Not dark. Like, this is not happy. So I talked about this. I made a rant video about this years ago, probably in late 2013, early 2014. This is the reason I hate Mindscape, and I'll tell you an abbreviated version of it. I really recommend, if you want to know the full, like, detailed story, either read Brett Weiss's new book, or, you know, his new NES book, because I talk about it in there, or go and watch my old rant video on this, and that game is Mad Max. So... I beta tested this game back in the day. Mindscape was a couple of towns over from where I lived. I won a contest. I was given a Famicom and a beta cartridge version of this to play. I had to play it for 2 weeks straight, come back, and do like it was a questionnaire at first. When I got there, it turned out to be a focus group. And in return, I would get 2 free games from Mindscape's catalog. Well, I hated the game. I told them so to their face. They seemed like they were interested to hear what I had to say about it because I told them I was a huge fan of the films. They like were writing all these notes down because I was telling them like, well, if you've got the guy from the announcer dude from Thunderdome in the game, why isn't Thunderdome in the game? Why isn't Anti-Entity in the game? Where's Ironbar? Because he would be a great boss character. You got Humongous in the game. Where is Anti-Entity? Like, where are all these other characters that are missing? Like, you've got characters from the Road Warrior and Thunderdome in it. Why aren't you using more from the movies? And they seemed really interested. And then about 6 months later, when the game did come out, I picked 2. Okay, well, the games that I picked for my reward were, they said I could pick any game from their back catalog, and I told them to their face I'd rented a bunch of them and I hated them all. And there was also like 5 games that were going to be releasing, and if I wanted any of those, they would ship them to me when the games came out. I picked 720 Degrees and Road Blasters. They sent me 720 Degrees. I never got Road Blasters. They just screwed me over on that completely. And the thing was, when the game came out, like 6 months later, there was no fanfare to it at all. It just came out. A friend of mine rented it and goes, hey, I want you to come over and watch me play this, or if you want to come over and play it, let's see what the differences are from when you were beta testing it. And it's the exact same game. Absolutely nothing was changed. I hate this game. I hate it with a passion. I'm in the manual. I am in the special thanks section. Where are you? This piece of shit game. Let's see. here. Okay, so here's the manual. I wish I had a manual when I was playing this. And if you look, my name's right there, Chris Pico. So it is the worst freaking game. I hate everything about it. I told them like within the first 5 minutes of me playing it that I hated it from that point on. And I told them to their face that it was absolute torture having to play this for 2 weeks straight so I could talk about it in the focus group at the end. But I wanted to get this game because I'm in the manual. It's a piece of my gaming history, so I have to own a copy of it, even though the game is absolute junk. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it! And because of all the shenanigans with that game, I refused to buy any game from Mindscape from that point on. I refused. I did not want anything that had the 3 little wavy lines on it. I did not want anything with that on it. Only time I set that aside was when Wing Commander came out for the Super Nintendo, because I love Wing Commander. And the thought of me giving them my money made me so mad that I went and returned it to the store and got my money back. But then later on, I went out and rebought like a used copy of it. And I was like, well, they're not directly getting my money, so that's okay. But that's how crazy I was. That's how mad I was about what they did, because they shafted me on a game. I did all that shit, tortured myself for 2 weeks, and they shafted me on a game. Eat my ass. Yes, if you want, I will sign it if I ever meet you in person, Inashi. Why you would want me to do so, I have no idea. The Mayfat Conspiracy. This is the sequel to Gogol 13. I think this is a better game than Gogol 13. It's more streamlined. The graphics are better. The controls are better. Everything is better. There's even the sniper scenes, as you can see. You got sniper scenes again, and they're presented almost the exact same way. The game plays almost the same. It's just better made. I really like this one a lot. It's a spy game. It has a couple of different gameplay types. You got like sniper levels. You got side-scrolling levels where you shoot people in the face. I really enjoy it. I got that at the local exchange for $5 complete. I don't think they knew what was up, because I see this game for at least 30 or 40 sometimes on eBay, so I got a deal on that sucker. I still don't know how to say this properly. The Magic of Scheherazade or something. But it's an RPG like Arabian Nights. An Arabian Nights RPG. And it's actually pretty cool. Culture Brain came up with some weird-ass ideas for games. And I love them for it. I think it's fantastic. You can see it looks like Final Fantasy a little bit. But the side-scroll, the overworld-type levels when you're not fighting, look more like Legend of Zelda. And why did everything turn yellow? Oh my god! I've got jaundice! There we go. Really recommend this one if you haven't picked it up already. If you love RPGs, this one's like an action RPG, more like a straight-up RPG. I really liked it. It's different enough that I can get behind it. I've seen Mad Max so many times, and I've never come close to considering buying it. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But if you want to say, like, oh, look, my buddy Chris, he helped develop this game, even though nothing that I told him ended up helping that game in any way. I think the thing that made me the most mad about the Mad Max situation was the fact that the way they all acted when I started telling them about how I was a fan of the movie and what I thought they could bring into the game to make it better from the movies, that I was legitimately helping make a better game. Like, I thought that I was, like, putting my stamp on something, and then they effed me in the A. Marble Madness. I wanted this one, not only because it's a fun game. I used to play this in the arcade all the time. Yeah, I don't have the rollerball controller. There isn't one. Duh. It's because this one was developed by Rare. And it's one of those weird games, like, they were like a third-party developer that other companies were just buying up their games and releasing them. So yeah, they did the support of Marble Madness, and it's actually pretty decent. It controls okay with the standard Nintendo controller, which isn't bad. I always like using the Max for this because of the way the controller was designed, the thumbstick. Because it slid around a little bit. It was easier for me to control. I don't know if that's just me or what, but I really enjoyed this one a lot. The music is super catchy, and it's a Rare game. Rare! How dare you hate on Sega? How did I hate on Sega? Explain. Here we go with the big heavy hitters. Mega Man 2. This one is the one that everyone considers the best game in the Mega Man series. I like it a lot. I don't think it's the best one. It's not my favorite, my personal favorite, but it is good. It is really good. It has some of the best music in the series. The gameplay was improved vastly over the first game because I rented the first game despite that ugly ass cover artwork, and I thought it was cool. I didn't rush out to try this one out when it came out because of the first one kind of being okay. But everyone was telling me, have you tried Mega Man 2? This game is freaking fantastic. No, I haven't, because, the first one kind of left a bad taste in my mouth because I didn't think it was all that fun. It was cool, but, I didn't think it was great. But, yeah, once I finally got around to trying this one, I actually didn't play this one after the first one. I played the next one in the series, which was Mega Man 3. This is the one that I got. And this is my favorite game in the series. At least back then it was. I'll change. Okay, let me rephrase. This was my favorite game in the series back in the day. And why? This was the first one I owned, and it was actually not that hard when you think back to what the first one was. The first one I thought was so difficult it wasn't all that fun, and I hadn't played the second one yet. And the second one's pretty difficult too. This one, it felt like they listened to criticism from people saying that it was too difficult, and they lightened up the difficulty a little bit. So yeah, this was my favorite one in the series back in the day. See, I told you, Game Grinder. Me and you, man, simpatico. Mega Man 3. This was the one that turned me off on the series completely. That's Mega Man 4. Why? I think that Capcom was really running out of ideas for the Robot Masters. There's Sphinx Man or Pharaoh Man, sorry. And I was just really. And how come there's always a variation of a heat and a cold, or a hot and a cold guy? It just gets old after a while. So I was they're running out of ideas. I think I'm done with the series. And this is the last one I bought. They started introducing new mechanics, I think, in the third one. And this one, I think, is the one with the slide? I can't remember what they added in this one. Oh, the Mega Buster. This is the first one that had the Mega Buster in it. No, don't get me wrong, I thought it was okay, but I was just I can't imagine what the character is going to look like in Part 5. I'm they're just going to be stupid and embarrassing. But I never played Part 5. Picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic this year. Paid way too much money for it. Actually, no, I didn't, because I got a deal because I bundled a whole bunch of stuff together. I talked about that in my Midwest Gaming Classic pickup video. Still at 3, yeah. Well, 3, like I said, 3 was the first one that I owned, which is why it's my favorite. So I didn't get overexposed because I never played the second one. But nowadays, this one is my favorite on the NES. And why? It's just, there was a lot of cool things that Capcom was doing. There's the Gravity guy, Gravity Man, or whatever it is. And on his level, gravity shifts back and forth, so you're running on the ceilings or running on the ground. I thought that was really cool. It reminded me a lot of Metal Storm. And, I don't know, I was capturing footage for the original version of the Midwest Gaming Classic 2019 video that I was making. I captured footage from every single game that I bought that I could capture footage from. I think it was only one game that I couldn't because it didn't work, and that's coming up later. And I ended up just playing this for a while. Compared to everything else that I bought, I played this one for at least 2 hours, and I had to turn the capture device off and just kept on playing. So this one's my new favorite one. And then I found this randomly at... what was it called? Video Games Then and Now, and that's the 6th game, which I never played back in the day. I never owned it before, except maybe in a collection somewhere. But this one was developed by Capcom, but released by Nintendo, which makes no sense to me at all. Was Capcom really hurting that much that they sold the rights to Nintendo? Or was Nintendo just trying to keep the NES alive by buying really cool games and putting it under their... putting their name on it? I can't talk. Play this one, it's okay. You can tell this is where they're really, really running out of steam. Really stupid Robot Masters in this one. But this is not my favorite. Part 1, it's weird. The first game and the last game are the ones that I think are not that great. Okay. Don't fall over, games, or I'll get angry. Okay. Pick this one up for my friend Felix the Brett from the Batterad Nerdatorium on Facebook. And that's Metal Mech Man and Machine. It's a side-scrolling action game / shooter where you're running around in something that looks like an AT-ST from Star Wars. It's actually kind of fun. It gets a little repetitive, but I enjoy this one a lot. I'll just start putting them down here. one of my favorite game series of all time, and that's Metroid. Picked this one up. I think I got this from. There was a guy I bought this from on Facebook. I bought a whole bunch of games from him at once, and this was one of them. And he sold it to me for a pretty decent price, even though for the most part, the stuff he was selling me, other than this, he was overpricing. So I thought it kind of evened out in the end, so that's why I picked it up. But played this at a bunch of friends' houses because I did not have an NES, like at the start. Played this at a couple of my friends' houses and really liked what I saw, even though I thought it was like kind of vague where you needed to go and that kind of thing, because I didn't... The whole idea behind the find a new item to help you get back to an area, like the whole Metroidvania scenario, finding a new item that helps you go back to a previously visited area and do other things in there, just kind of broke my brain a little bit, but now it's a commonplace thing that everybody likes. But I really enjoy this game. I also have this for the Famicom Disk System, which is actually a better version of the game. Classic Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Everyone is still streaming this game regularly. I know T-Belly streams it a lot. But watched my friend beat this in one sitting. He bought it, I think 2 days after he picked it up. He's like, hey, you want to come over and play some Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? So I went over there and played it at his house. He beat it in one sitting without even losing a match. My friend Gary, he was like a gaming god. The Rush Armor? Yeah. Metroid, you got the yellow copy too? Yeah, I guess I do. Yeah. Yes, I do. But I prefer the Famicom Disk System version. Yes, it was a Disk System game in Japan, which is why the music is kind of simplistic on the cartridge version. But I love Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! It is, like, if you want to find out if a clone console that you have has lag, this is the game you test out on, because you need perfect timing in order to punch certain characters. There's like a 2 pixel or half a second window you have to smack somebody, and if you miss it, you're toast. Oh, Renaissance! We got the Mylan Secret Castle. This is like I always consider this one like a puzzle platformer. And a lot of my friends were not big fans of this one, but I enjoyed it because it was something different. Hudson Soft was the company that, to me, was like way forward back then. That you could always expect a Hudson Soft game to be different in a fun way. And Mylan Secret Castle is one of those games I picked up from KB Toys really cheap, picked up with my lunch money, and I always enjoyed it. It was really fun. I think the only game of theirs that I never had, I'd never had, what is it, Mighty Bomb Jack or whatever, and I never had Princess Tomato, which saddens me. But I really enjoy Mylan Secret Castle. It's really fun. This game is like impossible to play, and it's even in the title. That's Mission Impossible. It's based on the old TV show, not the Tom Cruise movies. Come on, it has the original Mr. Phelps on the front cover, and some guy that looks like Daniel Jackson from Stargate on the cover. Don't ask me why. But it's like a puzzle. It's like Metal Gear. But there's like puzzle elements because you need to like put on the masks and you need to stealth and you need to do all this other kind of stuff, and it is super hard because the moment you get caught, it's game over. And it's like a lot of trial and error, but I enjoy it because I like a challenge, and you know, I would like to beat this someday. It might not happen until I'm in my freaking 90s. Picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic a couple years ago, Monster in my pocket. Never had this back in the day because not into toys at all back then, and this was based on a toy line. It's cool. I enjoy it. The music is good. The graphics are good. The only thing is, like, the two characters you play as, one's like Frankenstein, one's a vampire. They both play exactly the same. There's no difference between the two of them. So it's like, what's the point of having two different characters if you don't get two different experiences? That's my only gripe. And it was supposed to come with a character, like a figure, and I didn't get this, obviously. But I enjoy it. It's fun. Not as good as everyone made it out to be. I need the Japanese version of this game, and that's Monster Party, because the Japanese version is uncut. There's weird stuff in here from what I remember. Let me see. No, my microphone is still on. Is it on again? Okay, it was just you. Yeah, Monster Party. I picked this up from the same guy that I got Metroid from. I think I got this and Metroid at the same time, and also Excitebike. But it's a bizarre-ass game. It's a side-scrolling action game. You play as this little kid that gets sucked into this monster world, and he's got a bat, and there's monsters all over the place, and I guess the bosses had been changed for the American version because there was blood and all kinds of stuff, and they cut that out of the game, and all this kind of stuff that's on the cover is not in the game at all. Well, some of it is, maybe, but I don't know why one of the characters from the first Troll movie is in it. And we got Audrey, too, from Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah, a Little Shop of Horrors thing, it's just a potted plant that attacks you. It's stupid. But the game is fun. There's killer onion rings in the game. Tap it again. How's that do it? Does that do you good? But it's a fun game. I watched a lot of people stream this a while back, and it is fun. I enjoy it a lot. It's just, I really want to get the Japanese version because I want to see what the differences are. Everything's wobbly. Narc, arcade game that I really liked back in the day, but the home port is not nearly as fun. But, I wanted it because this was developed by Rare for the home consoles. And there's cool stuff in it from the arcade. It's clunky. The arcade version had, like, Mortal Kombat style graphics. The characters that you played as, the bad guys, they're all like digitized actors, but it was like Pit Fighter-esque, I guess. And they can't do that on the NES, of course not. So the controls and the graphics are not all that great. But it's still kind of fun, I guess. My dad is bad at action games. The only game my dad ever played on the NES... Oh, no, there's two of them. The only games he ever played on the NES and enjoyed were Dragon Warrior, because he was a huge Ultima fan, and that was like right up his alley, and he was like, wow, these graphics are way better than my piece of shit Atari computer. I'm like, yeah, it's the Nintendo. Everything's better on the Nintendo. And Fester's Quest, which shocked the hell out of me. He beat the shit out of Fester's Quest. I bought this in a lot with Gauntlet 2, and it was one of the first games I purchased for my NES when I got back into collecting in 2013. And I was sitting at a Portillo's, eating my lunch by myself, and I was surfing eBay on my phone, and I saw this, and I think it was like $25 for Gauntlet 2 and this. And I was like, I really want the Gauntlet 2. The other one, whatever. But I kept it because actually it's not too bad, and that's NES Open Tournament Golf, Mario Golf. It's better than the original, black box golf game that came out for the NES by far, but it's still not, like, great. I didn't really like golf games until probably the PlayStation era, but it's okay. This one, Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming got me to buy at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2018. It was on Sunday, and by Sunday, we had walked through that entire dealer's hall twice. I don't know how it happened, but we both missed this one table. I don't know why. Maybe it was crowded and we just walked past it and we're like, whatever. I don't know. Excuse me, I almost belched. But for some reason, we had missed this table, and he came. I walked into the dealer's hall, and he came running up to me. He's like, dude, over here, right now, let's go. And it was a guy selling repros of a bunch of games that never came out in the U.S. And this is one that's right up his wheelhouse. He's a huge fan of this franchise, and that's New Ghostbusters 2. The company was called Retro Limited. The guy brought a certain amount of copies, I think, 50 copies of this to sell at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and 100 copies of the other game, which I bought as well, because it's something that I always wanted back then, is when I found out about it, nowadays. New Ghostbusters 2 is the Ghostbusters game we all should have gotten. We didn't. I don't know why. This was developed by... not IREM. HAL Laboratories, the Kirby people. And it's like a Legend of Zelda view type game, a top-down type of game. You control two Ghostbusters at the same time. One of them uses the gun, the other one uses the trap. So you can trap a ghost with your gun, hold it in place, the other character will trap it with the trap. And it is super fun. It actually follows the movie really, really well compared to the shit Ghostbusters 2 game that we got over here from Activision. But this one is super fun. I enjoyed it a lot. It actually feels like Ghostbusters. And yes, you get to fight Vigo at the end, which is awesome. You're like the buzzing of flies to him. You heard me. Senior, huge Fester guy. Okay, I love Fester. Freaking love this game. Don't you badmouth this. That is a great one. Does the repro have a clear cart with green slime? It certainly does. It glows in the dark. Ah, shit. Open up, damn you! Yeah, I don't think I showed this off in the video that I made about what I had purchased at the Midwest Gaming Club. Oh, wow, this thing is in there. Come on. Fuck you, then. I'm opening you up. The cartridge itself is it doesn't have slime on it. It is basically made out of glow-in-the-dark material. If I were to hold this up to the light and then turn the lights off, yeah, it would be glowing in the dark. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted it. I know what you're talking about, though. The reason I remembered the slime thing was I remember there was another person selling repros of it that had like a green slime running down the front. But it's a fantastic game. If you can't get a repro of it, get the real game from Japan for the Famicom. It is awesome. Speaking of awesome, here's another licensed game. This is one of my favorites. And everyone, like, because of the AVGN bad-mouthing it, everybody was like, that is the most garbage game ever. But he was just kidding. That was just for his character. That was just for an episode. He actually says that he really likes this game. In some of the videos I saw when he was talking with Mike Matei, he was like, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street's actually a fun game. He goes, I just had to pick it apart for a video. That's Nightmare on Elm Street. Back in, what was it, 80... When did Part 5 come out? 89? From 89 to like 1991, I was like obsessed with Freddy Krueger. My parents would never let me watch horror movies. And when I was a kid, and then I want to say in 88, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this crap. You know, when they're not home, I'm going to grab one of the horror movies that they have like made a copy of. You know, we would rent videos all the time from the video store. We had 2 VCRs. My parents would copy every single movie we rented and put it on a tape. And I was like, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to grab a horror movie. I'm going to watch it. The first horror movie I ever watched from beginning to end was Hellraiser 2. I went hardcore. But after that, everyone was like, if you're going to watch a horror movie, watch the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And I did, and I fell in love with them. I thought they were great. I loved the whole dream imagery and how anything can happen in the dreams. Part 3 is one of my favorite movies of all time. So naturally, when a Nightmare on Elm Street game came out, I had to have it. A friend of mine, Charlie, he bought this back in the day, and I played it at his house, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. It's developed by Rare, which means it's automatically awesome. And it's actually one of the more expensive LJN games out there nowadays. I don't know why. Is it because it's in such high demand? Friday the 13th isn't that expensive, but this one is. I was never able to use the 4-score ability that this thing has, where you can play 4 players at once, but I've played it 2-player, and that is so comically insane. I cannot imagine what playing this with 4 people at the same time would be like. People just be dying left and right, because no one will know who the hell they are. You play as a character in red if you're playing single player, but if you play it 2-player, the other character will be... He looks exactly like you, but it's blue. And if you play with the 4 players, the player 1 and 2 are male, or player 3 and 4 are female, and they're red and blue as well. So I can just imagine the confusion going on, and it would probably be fun and funny to play, but I can imagine it being a literal nightmare. But it's a platformer. You have to collect Freddy's bones to burn him in his boiler and kill him forever. There's lots of stuff from the movie in it. There's lots of stuff that was not in the movies in it, like zombies and bats and stuff like that, and giant rats. But the fact that you have the Dream Warrior powers from Part 3, the 3rd movie, like you can do the gymnast thing, you can do the warrior thing, you can do the ninja thing and all that, it is so much fun. And then all the different bosses are resembling Freddy from different parts of different movies. Like you got the Freddy snake thing that shoots the tongues at you and all that. It's great. I love it. This is one of my favorite games of all time. I enjoy the shit out of it. The music is awesome. All right, thanks for stopping by, Church. I'll talk to you later, dude. Why am I drippings with goo? How's the baby? The second one cracks me up. If there was anything in there that was like I could say is legit funny in that movie that didn't seem forced, it was definitely Peter McNichol. Everything that came out of his mouth was comedy gold. You like the buzzing of flies to him. I said that when I saw The Prophecy in the movie theater. Didn't know who the hell Viggo Mortensen was, but I figured out who he was by the process of elimination when I was watching the movie, because when he shows up at the end of the movie playing Satan, I said it out loud in the theater, like, this is Viggo! You like the buzzing of flies to him? And this guy that was sitting in front of me just turned around, looked at me, and just started laughing. This is a weird one. It's Nightshade by Ultra / Konami. It's an adventure game that's kind of point-and-click-y. It is point-and-click-y. But Vegas shit. It's fun. It's got some funny parts to it. But I have a hard time getting into it because, like I said, it's vague. Like, you really have to, like, put that pointer on everything to know what's going on. And, like, even getting out of that chair in the beginning of the game is, like, a nightmare. but whatever. It's cool. It's different. I prefer Shadowgate and Deja Vu and all that when it comes to that type of game on the NES. I'm going to do both of these at the same time. We got Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2. I love these games, even though they're difficult as all hell. I only was able to beat the second one. I've never beaten the first one. For some reason, Jakuyo, I always called him Jaku, from the first game, I could never beat him. I couldn't. It was the hardest thing ever. Part 2 I did beat. I found this one to be a little bit easier. Part 3 is insane. I had all 3 of these back in the day. But Part 2 is probably my favorite in the series. The music, I think, is catchier. The gameplay is great. I like the storyline in the second one a little bit more. It's really dark. Yeah, these are super fun games. The remakes that were made, or the reboots that were made for the Xbox, are great also. This one I got in a lot, and I don't know why I still have it, because it's not that good, and it's called Orb 3D. I played it once when I first got it, and I haven't played it since. But the thing is, it comes with like these special 3D glasses. They were like polarized 3D glasses. It wasn't like the red and the blue. It was like regular sunglass material, like a darkened thing, and then one was kind of lighter. And it was supposed to work well, and from what I understand, it doesn't. But I do not like this game. It's like a puzzle game. Oh, wait a minute. What? When did this happen? Did I buy these at some point? I feel like a pirate. I must have gone online and bought these at some point. I don't remember doing that. That shocks the hell out of me, because I was like, why do I still have this game if I can't play it with the 3D glasses? Okay, I really am the oldest retro gamer, because I'm getting Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's strikes at will. The game is still poop, though. Here's one I picked up at the Midwest Gaming Classic last year. But it wasn't at the convention. This was at the Make Sense Variety Store. I picked this up. It was in their cabinet with all the boxed games, and I always wanted it because Phantom Fighter looks a lot like Big Trouble in Little China. That's my text ringtone. It's Metroid, because I'm a geek. It's okay. It's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up, and it's alright. The cover isn't as cool. I mean, the cover is better than the game, because the game does not live up to the cover. Sadly, I must say. It's a weird one. I had this one back in the day. Pictionary. Nothing to write home about. It's okay. The thing that makes this awesome is the music. The music is amazing. I think it's David Wise did the music for this, and it's like too good for this game. Like way too good. I use it as the music at the start and the end of my Top 3 Tuesday videos. I use the main music from this, from I think the first stage. And it's a fun game to play with people, but by yourself it's not that great. But it's an LGN game. I mean, it's developed by Rare. I had to have it. I think my friend, I bought it from Felix the Brett, I think for like $10. Here's another Rare developed awesomeness. Pinbot. This was another one of my favorite games of all time. Picked this up at KB Toys really cheap back in the day. It's a port of a pinball game, a legit pinball game. And it does a really good job of duplicating the game, because I played the pinball game a lot in arcades back then. I wasn't really a big pinball fan, but I'm a big fan of digital pinball for some reason. I suck at it in person, but on consoles, I'm good. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It has everything that was in the arcade game in it, and it's a very good port. And the way that, instead of having to do all the weird scrolling back and forth whenever the ball hits, they kind of split the screen up, so like part of it scrolls and part of it stays still, and it just like gets overlapped. And I think that was a great way to do it, because I never would lose my ball when I would be playing the game. I never would lose my ball. Here's a game that I don't understand how it got a game on the NES to begin with, and that's Platoon. How do you turn Platoon, one of the most violent movies of its day, into a video game that kids can play? Well, you don't make a good game, I'll tell you that. This was one of those games that I picked up because Sunsoft, and Sunsoft was my jam, and I was like, wow, I made a mistake. Because the game is super hard. There's some parts where it's like a shooting gallery. There's other parts where it's like a side-scrolling action game. And it's not well made. I'll say that. Even the music is pretty bad. So this was one of those games that I had it back in the day. I wanted it back in my collection because this was a game that I did have. And I have nostalgia for it because even though I didn't like it back then, I played it all the time. So I wanted it back in my collection. I will never be able to afford part 2 of this, but I have Power Blade. Picked this up really early on in my collecting, back in 2014, I want to say. And got it for a steal on eBay. And I couldn't figure out why the guy was selling it so cheap. It was complete. Cartridge, manual, everything in here. And it was in really good shape until it showed up. And there was like a label covering up the entire side of the box, like up to about here. And this is the side that I would be stacking it on. You know, that side would be the one that would be stacked on my shelf. So now I stack everything like this because it saves space. But I spent a week trying to get this label off. And I was using Goo Gun sparingly trying to get it off, and I could not get it to come off. It is like baked on there. So that's as good as it's going to get. But luckily, like I said, I store the games like this now, so it's not a big deal. But the game is fantastic. It's a side-scrolling platform action game, and your character has a boomerang that can be powered up and do all this kind of crazy stuff, and the levels are very well designed. The really weird power-up where it lets you get like metal skin is kind of weird. I absolutely love it. Tim Follin. Thank you, Sir HC Man. Yes, I always get them confused. Tim Follin and David Wise. But yes, the music in Pictionary is awesome. I really love this game. It's one of my favorites. I never played it back in the day, though. But I remember everybody talking about it, how great it was. And I think I was watching Grimsy42, and he had gotten a copy of Part 2 and was telling those that are watching how expensive and hard to find it is. But he was like, well, if you just want, the cheaper version of Part 2, just buy Part 1. And that's exactly what I did. He was one of the people that convinced me to get back into collecting. It was him, Gamester81, Metal Jesus, Pete Dorr, and Ed. I can't remember his name. His full thing was Ed 20 something. Rad Racer's another one of those games that was in 3D. And this one came with red and blue 3D glasses. I do not think I have them for this. Nope. I think this was developed by Square. I do believe. And can I get this back inside? It's like playing pole position at night most of the time. It's okay. For like an early NES game, it's pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I don't know what the whole idea behind it being in 3D was. Yes, developed by Square. 1987. Because I remember playing this at my friend Gary's house. My friend Gary had the Nintendo from the beginning. And I'd always be going over to his house to watch him play the games or to play the games because like I said, I did not have one until 89. So he was my Nintendo hookup. Every time I wanted to see something cool, he would always have all the new games. I'd go over there and watch him play them, and usually he would beat them in one sitting, which was crazy. Like I said, he was like a gaming god. But this one was okay. I want to say that he played it for like a week and then got rid of it because there wasn't any replay value. Okay, so here's one of the first games I ever got for the NES. We got it in 89, and then I'm going to say for Easter, we got it Christmas 89, Easter of 1990. This showed up in my brother's Easter basket. It's not a good game, but didn't have a choice. You played what you got, and I played the crap out of this. I liked it back then. I don't like it very much now. It is actually a clone of Legend of Zelda 2. The graphics are almost swapped out for Rambo. Everything's the same with the numbers. When you, like the experience points, when you smack something, the numbers like scroll up the screen a little bit after you kill the creature. It's just, it's not good. But I played the shit out of it. And if you haven't seen Rambo Last Blood, I recommend it. It's actually pretty cool. But I wanted this for nostalgia's sake. There's another awesome rare game, RC Pro-Am. Had this back in the day. Got this super cheap at KB Toys. Because my friend Gary had this, and we would play it all the time. Like, I don't think we never did play a 2-player. I don't think this had 2-player capability. No, it didn't. But yeah, I remember I was trading off. And I loved it, and I still love it. Racing RC cars. And I talked about this in my Genesis Diamonds in the Rough video. Because there's a port of this to the Sega Genesis, which is fantastic. Great game. Great game. That has memories attached to it. Renegade is just a beat 'em up, and it's not a very good one as far as I'm concerned. I think, oh god, what's it called? River City Ransom is way better than this, but this is a port of an arcade game that I never played. There's another one from back in the day that I got super cheap at KB Toys, Rescue the Embassy Mission. There's like 3 different gameplay styles. One where you're trying to sneak into a building and you're avoiding spotlights. There's like a sniper thing you can do. And there's also when you break into the building, it's like in a first-person type of view and you're going through hallways taking out terrorists. It's actually pretty cool. It gets really old, though, because, like I said, every level is exactly the same. It's just more difficult. It just ramps up. Here's one I never played back in the day. I do not like the movie this is based on, so therefore I was not interested in it. But surprisingly, it's an RPG. And that's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. What? A Robin Hood RPG based on a stupid Kevin Costner movie. I hate that movie. I really do. Except for Alan Rickman. He's a god. He's awesome. But yeah, it's like an action RPG. And it's actually pretty good. Don't ask me why. Virgin Games was like one of those companies that their games were either really good or really bad. And this one like surprised the hell out of me how much fun it was. As you can see, I'm trying to rush through stuff because I still got like 4 stacks of stuff here. RoboCop, it's a port of the arcade game, loosely ported. This was by Ocean, but Data East released it for them. I don't know if Ocean had been releasing games on their own at this point yet, but it's okay. The arcade game is pretty fun. This one's okay too. It's not that great. It's just a side-scrolling, like, Contra-style game. For a licensed game, it's not bad. This one surprised me also, and that's The Rocketeer. I love this movie. It was one of my favorites from back in the day. And it's a side-scrolling action game. And yes, you can fly a little bit. And it actually represents the movie extremely well. I like this one a lot. I picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic the first year that I went. No, was it the first year? No, the second year that I went. Maybe? I got this at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I know that. It was either the first or second year I went, and I was really glad that I did. This was not so good, and that is the Rocket Ranger. This is a port of a Amiga game, I want to say. And it's a bad port. It's basically overly simplified to the point where it's like, why bother playing it? It's kind of like a cinematic action game. Everything is like a different view. Every screen that you're playing on is something different. You haven't played anything like this in the previous part of the game. Everything is really different. So there's like beat 'em up stages where your character, it's like a fighting game almost. There's like ones where you're flying around trying to shoot down a blimp and there's missiles coming at you, and it's like playing Star Fox a little bit. There's all this different kind of crap. Some of it's okay, some of it is not. Got that super cheap off eBay. Got this off my friend Philip the Brett for $7, and it's a really expensive game normally, but I got it for $7 because the game looks like somebody sat on it and then crapped on it and then, set it on fire with their ass, set a fart on fire. That's Roller Games. What's up, Phil? Leave the twerping alone! That's an inside joke only 6 people will understand. But Roller Games, it's a Konami action game. It's like side-scrolling, but you're on roller skates, and you're kicking people in the face. What's not to like? It's actually pretty fun. I really like it. Music is fantastic. It's a Konami game. Of course it is. I played the arcade game of this all the time at this resort that we used to go to in the summers in Michigan called Sunnybrook Farm. It was a junk. That place was it was a heap. It was horrible. But they had an arcade, and they had like 6 arcade games. One of them was Altered Beast. The other one was Rolling Thunder. One of the other ones was Rolling Thunder. They also had Arch Rivals, and I hated that game. But side-scrolling action game. It's arcadey, but it has this like cover mechanic where you can go inside rooms and hide and let bad guys pass you up, and then you can shoot them. And in some rooms, you'll find power-ups like a machine gun or a flamethrower or something. I don't think the flamethrower was in this one. I think that was in the third one. But it's a really fun game. I really enjoy this one. It's one of the Tengen games. I think this one is the black cartridge. Yes, it is. It is the black cartridge. I like the design of the original Tengen games before they decided to start using the standard NES-style cartridges. I have Gauntlet, the first Gauntlet, and I have it in the gray cart. I would like to get it in the black cart. Leave Roller Games alone! Yeah, Roller Games is great. I love it so much. This is one of those games I never played back in the day. And I always was like kind of looking at it on the store shelf going like, do I really want to play a game where you're like in roller skates? Like, do I really want to play that one? Because like TNC surf designs. I was like, no. But it turned out it was really fun. I should have known better. It's Konami. Konami, like, aside from Adventures of Bayou Billy, Konami could really do no wrong back then for me. Rygar, port of an arcade game that I never played. They turned this one into more of an adventure game than like a side-scrolling action game because the arcade game was just beat 'em up. Like you have this shield that's on like a chain and like Kratos kind of, and you just whip enemies with it, and that's pretty much what the arcade game was. This one has like top-down levels mixed into it. There's like adventure RPG-ish type things going on also. I remember when we first got our NES, this was one of the games we got, and I brought all the games that we had. I think at that point we had like 6 games. I brought it over to a friend's house that I hadn't seen in probably like 10 years, and he had an NES, and that's why I brought him over so we can all sit around and play games. And it was my friend Jeff and my friend Daryl. Daryl was the one that I hadn't seen in years. And Jeff and Daryl hogged every single game that I brought, so they wouldn't even let me play my own games. They basically hogged the NES the whole time, and I just sat there with my arms crossed going like, can I please play my game? And they're like, no, we're busy. We're taking care of this. And I'd be like, yeah, you guys are assholes. And I don't think I talked to them for about 10 years after that. I was kind of mad. But this game is fantastic, and the music is super catchy, even though it's very repetitive. Oh, God, these are going to fall over so bad. Okay, so one of my favorite games from when I was a kid, my friend Gary, that I've been talking about, the gaming god, bought this. I watched him beat it in one sitting, and I had to have it. Like, when I first got my NES, I had to have this, because it was so fantastic, and that is Shadowgate. It's an adventure game that I think is based off of an old Mac game, and it's, it's windowed. You have, like, your inventory, you have, like, your commands that you would use your controller like a pointer, and then what you were seeing was, like, what you would see in this little window up here. And it was, like, horror-themed. It was, there's, I think it was a dragon that you had to kill at the end? Or was it a wizard? I think it was a dragon. It's been a long time since I played this. I'm confusing this and the Immortal because I played the two of them at the exact same time all the time. I think this was the dragon. But it is fantastic. And there's 2 other games in this sort of series that they released that Kemco Sieka released, and there was Shadowgate, Deja Vu, and The Uninvited. I have Deja Vu. Uninvited is super expensive, but I do own it in the 8-bit anthology. Was the 8-bit adventure anthology they got from Limited Run Games for the PlayStation 4. Had this game back in the day, and I actually like this game better than Ninja Gaiden. And it's really expensive now, but I talked a guy into a deal at the Midwest Gaming Classic last year, and I was so happy that I did because this game is still fantastic. Shadow of the Ninja. I absolutely love this game. It is amazing. It's a side-scrolling action game where you play as a ninja, but instead of... You have a sword, but the thing that's awesome is you get this, like, chain hook that it's like a long-distance weapon. It is fantastic. I love it. Music is fantastic. The platforming is great. The gameplay is fantastic. I really, really like this one a lot. It is better than the Ninja Gaiden games to me. And it is not impossible like the Ninja Gaiden games are. Rygar's great. Yo, Playboy, Renaissance, when did you go to Twitch? Why'd you go to Twitch, man? You still release stuff on YouTube, don't you? Disc Armor for Rygar. Yes, that was the name of it. Picked this up. It was one of the first games I picked up in 2013 when I got back in collecting. I bought a lot off of a guy on Facebook. I think his name is Adam. Excuse me, my throat's going dry. I got RC Pro-Am, DuckTales, this, and something else. And I'm not going to go searching through everything trying to find it. But it's Silent Service. This was another game I always wanted to buy. When I was doing all that KB Toy Store thing, like I'd save all my lunch money all week long from when I was in high school, and then at the end of the week I would go to KB Toys at the local mall and like buy a discount game that they had or one that was on clearance. This was always one that was sitting there staring at me, and I never bought it. So, losing my voice. It's kind of technical. I mean, it is basically a submarine simulator type of game, taking out other subs and all that. It's kind of cool. It just, like, it takes a little getting used to because there's a learning curve to it. But it's actually pretty fun. It's a Konami joint. Okay, so my friend Charlie bought this. And, no, he rented it. And I came to his house when he rented it, and we played it. And the game is extremely hard, but the music in it is absolutely fantastic. And I do believe Sir H.C. Man, this is another Tim Fallon awesomeness. I think it was Tim and Jeff Fallon did the music for this. That's Silver Surfer. It's a vertical and horizontal scrolling shmup. It is super difficult. I mean, like, you basically need a slow motion feature from, I think it was the Advantage or the Max or whatever it was to play this. Because shit is just coming at you from all directions. And, like, one-hit death. But the music is absolutely fantastic. The graphics are really good. It plays well. It's just, like, the design of it is just, like, let's just throw every single thing you possibly can at these people, at your character, and hope they can maybe get through it. Like, I think the only person I've ever seen beat this game was Bootsy on the AVGN channel when they would do, like, the Let's Plays with Mike Matei, Bootsy. What is going on outside? Bootsy, Matt Matei, and James Rolfe. And Bootsy basically was just tapping the button nonstop. I don't know how he did it with his hand, and he didn't get tired. He beat the game, like, in one sitting. He figured it out just by, like, watching the attract mode at the beginning of the game. But he never played it before, if I remember correctly. Simpsons versus the Space Mutants. This game is terrible. I thought it was terrible back in the day, but I got it. Every kid my age back then got a copy of this game because The Simpsons was a brand new thing back in 1990. It was relatively new, and it was super, like, you have no idea how insanely popular The Simpsons was when it first started. Like, everybody had a Bart Simpson shirt that said, like eat my shorts. I remember I had one. I went to a summer camp, and, like, I remember I did a shirt of Bart Simpson saying, eat my shorts. I painted it on a shirt. Ugh. But everyone had a copy of Iron Sword, and everyone had a copy of Bart versus the Space Mutants, and this game is not good. It's a side-scrolling platform and all that, and there's, like, aliens that are around. You have to wear these sunglasses, like in They Live, and it lets you see all the aliens that are around you, and you have to kill them. It's crap. I hate it. But it's nostalgic because it's one of those games that you got it, you had to play it, because you were not going to get another game for a long time back then. But that was before I started saving my lunch money. Bartman. Yeah, Bartman. This game is, I would consider, a diamond in the rough. My friend Charlie was a huge skateboarder. Like, he had a ramp in his basement and everything. And anything that had to do with skateboarding, he would buy. And I played the first game in this series, and I did not like it. It was a bunch of mini games. But this one is a platformer, and they revamped it for the sequel, and it is freaking awesome. And that is Skater Die 2, The Search for Double Trouble. The first game was like a competition type of game where you had different events. There was like the skateboard joust, and then there was like the half pipe. And then there was like a trick thing where you're in a pool. This is a platformer where you're on a skateboard, and you have a paint gun as a weapon, and the music is absolutely fantastic. I do believe this is another Tim Fallon joint. I cannot remember. But the music in this game is, like, it's amazing. I mean, even if you don't like the game, you buy it for the music. It is that good. The cinema cutscenes are great and cartoony and, like, big and colorful. The game is fun. Rodney, the guy from the first game that was in the shop, the guy with the weird spiky hair that looked like Rodney Dangerfield with a mohawk, he's in here riding around on his skateboard, and, like, your currency in the game are, like, chili fries and CDs and cassette tapes and I think tacos. But it is awesome. Like, you get in trouble with the mayor because you accidentally kill the mayor's wife's dog, and then he basically tells everybody, like, okay, skateboarding is banned in the city, and everyone's after you because you're still skateboarding because you're a rebel. He's a rebel, Dottie. A loner. A loner, Dottie. A rebel. I got it backwards. It's been a while since I saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But this game is amazing, and if you have not played it, you must. It's so much fun. Oh, Skater Die 2, Phil? Skater Die 2 is amazing. I love it so much. That's one of the games that when I don't know what to play, that's my go-to game. I play it all the time. Even though I usually don't get very far. I've only beaten the game once in my entire life, and that was pure fluke. I mean, it was just the stars aligned and I did it, because the game is pretty hard. I don't need to. I just played like the first 2 or 3 levels and I'm good. Sky Shark picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I think this was the second year that I went, and it's a vertically scrolling shmup. It's based on an arcade game. It's okay. It's by Taito, so it's not too bad. Here's another awesome rare game. It's Snake, Rattle, and Roll. I remember Renaissance was streaming this. Ice Pick? Oh, God. Really? Really, dude? Renaissance was streaming this not too long ago, and I was watching, and I was like, wow, I really need to bust that game out and buy it and play it myself. I picked this up a while back, but basically you are playing as like a snake head, and as you eat things, your body starts to grow back, and it's isometric view. It's really quirky and weird, but it's a lot of fun. And the music is catchy as all hell because it's a Rare joint, and I think this was a David Wise joint also when it came to the music. And I highly recommend this game. It is different. Why not? Here's another awesome Rare game that I just talked about for Brett Weiss's new book, Solar Jetman and the Hunt for the Golden Warship. I thought this was a Defender clone. This is one of those games that I picked up at KB Toys, super cheap. I think I got this for a whopping $4.50. And I didn't know who Rare was at the time. I was not aware. I think I'd only played Battletoads. And this was on discount or clearance. I picked it up for like $4.50. And it looked like on the back, it just looks kind of like Defender. And that's what I thought it was. I was like, oh, it's like a shmup. Okay, that'll be kind of cool. And no, it's not. It's like an adventure game where you're like in an escape pod. Your ship crashes. You're looking for all the parts of your ship through all these tunnels. The only thing is every area you go into, or different planets you go to look for the parts of this golden warship you're trying to assemble, has gravity effects. And it's different on every planet. Sometimes the gravity is non-existent and you can just fly around at your whim and do whatever you want. Sometimes it's super, super intense and you could barely fly and you have to drag these parts of the ship that you're trying to find back to your main ship. On top of having things shoot at you, it's insane. It's a very unique game. I highly recommend it. You need to play it. I absolutely love this game. It's one of my all-time favorites just because it's so different from everything else out there. The gravity effect thing was what really got me. And here's another one that I talked about in Brett Weiss's new book, his NES book that's coming out probably 6 months maybe. Just turned in the essay for it last night. And that's Solstice. Quest for the Staff of Demons. I absolutely adore this game. I think it's absolutely fantastic. This is another one that I picked up at KB Toys. Came out of nowhere and kicked my ass. I knew nothing about it outside of what I was seeing like in comic books and video game magazines where there'd be like a one-page ad. But I didn't read any reviews. I didn't see any reviews. And picked this up when it got clearanced at KB Toys. And it's an isometric puzzle platformer. And it is fantastic. It's kind of reminiscent of a bunch of games that came out for the ZX Spectrum by Rare. One was called Saberwolf, I think. But you play as this wizard, you're looking for your lost girlfriend, and it's fantastic. The music when you start the game up is like really quiet. It's like, and it's really quiet. All of a sudden, it's like somebody hits you over the head with a hammer of bass, and it explodes. I remember like the first time I booted this up and the music started coming out, I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of those types of games, right? And then the music like blew out of my speaker, and I was like, and I actually sat there and let the entire title track play to the end and then loop back around. And I watched the attract mode version where it shows you what the gameplay is like. I absolutely loved it. I was like, okay, I think I'm going to like this game. And I did. And I still play it all the time. Here's the other game I got at the Midwest Gaming Classic last year when Jason was like, oh, you need to come to this one table with me that we missed, for the last 2 days. This is the other game that they were selling aside from new Ghostbusters 2, the repros. And it's Splatterhouse. They brought 100 copies, and I got the 43rd copy out of 100. This is Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti, which is the super deformed Splatterhouse game that came out in Japan for the Famicom. You play as the same dude, hockey mask, Jason, I think, or Jack, or whatever the hell it was. Except you're super deformed. Like you're this tiny little guy, like chibi character version of it, with this huge head. You still have your machete. You're killing everything. It's a platformer. It's actually really fun, really challenging. I enjoy this one a lot. Came back to a good O face. Oh, Splatterhouse. Game is fantastic. It is a shame that a lot of these games stayed in Japan and they just never thought to bring them over here. Like those gaijins, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand what the hell's going on over there. That's a derogatory term toward, Americans. Picked this one up at People Play Games. I think I got this for like $10, and the only reason I bought it was because it was $10. They didn't have that many. I remember the day that I went there to see what they had. They actually did not have a lot of NES games like in the box complete to sell. And I was like, I really just want a new NES game to play. And this was the one that I picked because it was $10. I was like, okay, I have $20 in my pocket. There you go. And it's Star Force by Tecmo. It's a vertically scrolling shmup, and it's okay. It's kind of like, it reminded me of Xevious a lot. It's alright. The music and the graphics are not the greatest. But here's another shmup that I ended up picking up off of eBay just because I felt like it. It's a Hudson Soft game, and I really enjoyed it. It's called Starship Hector. This is another one of those diamonds in the rough type games. Nobody talks about this damn thing. It's like Life Force almost. There's like horizontal and vertical scrolling shmup levels, and they are fantastic. You're not inside a living creature though. That's not the way this works. But it's like a standard shooter, but it's really fun and different. And you can tell. I have to say this is based on some sort of an anime. I mean, look at the character on it. I mean, that has to be an anime character. Oh, excuse me. I'm burpy. Picked this up at the same time I picked up Starship Hector and that Star Soldier. It's another shmup. Like, for a while there, I was trying to get all the shmups for the NES, and then I was like, you know what, you need to stop and just play these damn things. Some of them are garbage. This one's okay. This is another vertical scrolling shmup. It's very basic, I think. I think this was pretty early. But the reason I wanted it was because I saw that it was released by Taxon, and Taxon was one of my favorite developers back when I was a kid, due to G.I. Joe and the Low G-Man. Okay, so this is a repro. Picked it up at the Midwest Gaming Classic the very first year that I went. So that was like 5 years ago, so 2014, I guess. Found this repro, cart only, sitting on a table amongst other repro carts. There were a lot of carts there that I was like interested in, but this one I had to get because I love the license. And you know me, if you watch my channel, you know that I love this license. Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Okay, so the story behind this was it was being developed in 1989 to be released alongside the movie Star Trek V, and the movie bombed. And from what it sounded like, I read somewhere that Bandai was the company that was making it. They didn't pay a whole lot for the license. It didn't cost them as much as you would think. And the game was basically finished, but they were like, you know what? If everyone hates this movie, no one's going to buy the game at all. You know, why would you buy the game based on a movie you can't stand? So they shelved it. And they didn't lose too much money on it from what I understand. The game only has 4 stages. So it wasn't like they put a whole lot into it. And after playing it, I can see why. And I ended up having a YouTube or a Facebook friend make a new label for me because the label that was on the cartridge itself was garbage. Had to make a brand new label for me, and then I got a box and a manual from UncleTusk.com where they actually sell that kind of thing for repros. Like, if you were missing a box and you want one for your shelf, we'll make it for you. And they made me a box, which looks like a legit NES box, except not having a barcode. But yeah, it's a really short game. It's 4 levels. It follows the movie pretty decently, but the movie's garbage. So, I had to have it just because I'm a Star Trek fan. Here's the one that I did have when I was a kid. And I needed a Nintendo Power issue of Nintendo Power to beat it because this game is cryptic as all hell, and that is Star Trek 25th Anniversary. This is a Konami game, and it is vague. You have to actually have seen the episodes of the show to know what to do in some of the levels because I think it pulls from 4 different episodes of the classic series. And you kind of need to remember what was what. That's why it's the 25th Anniversary game. It's celebrating 25 years of the show. So it's like they took 4 episodes and piled them into one game. The box for Star Trek V. Yep, it is. It's like I said, I had it made specifically for me. It's good. It feels like Star Trek. It looks like Star Trek. You got the stuff in the turbo lift that was shot. It's designed exactly like it was in the show. The transporter stuff, all of it. You could tell the people that made this game were fans. Sometimes it's a little too fan service-ish because of the way it is. Even the music is right out of the show, which is kind of funny. There's times where I was laughing. I remember playing this back in the day when some of the crappy music from the show would creep its way into the game, and I'd be like, "Why did you pick that track? There were so many better tracks you could have picked." But it's fun. Like I said, I just needed a Nintendo Power because I had not seen all these episodes that they're referencing in the game, so I needed to know what was up. So Nintendo Power helped me out. This is the other shit Star Trek game that they have for the console, and that's Star Trek The Next Generation. So, I bought this. I never had this back in the day. I'm a huge Next Generation fan. Deep Space Nine is actually my favorite one out of all of the shows. But I'm a huge Next Generation fan. Never played this back in the day. Never played any of these except the Super Nintendo version. And the reason I purchased this for the NES was I was doing a video for my channel with Trek Yards as my guests. Trek Yards is a YouTube channel. All they talk about is they've changed their mission statement since we did it. Back then, all they would do reviews of starship designs. They would like talk about the tech and the starships of Star Trek, and they break it down in these episodes that were really fascinating to watch because it was like they talked like they were actual engineers. It was kind of cool, even though they weren't. And we were going to do a video about Star Trek games and like the good ones and the bad ones. And I bought this to talk about it because I remember my friend, was it Bill, maybe, told me that the game is actually pretty decent. So I was like, oh, maybe this will be one of the Star Trek games I can talk about because a lot of the ones I do have are garbage. And I popped this in and I was like, nope. It is bad. It is bad. Oh, my ass is going numb. Anyway, it's like a bunch of mini games. Like you want to teleport somebody from, like there's like missions where you're like, oh, you need to teleport like 6 people down or 6 people up from this planet that's going to explode. And the gameplay for that is like you're playing whack-a-mole. If you want to enter orbit of a planet, it's Superman 64 where you're flying through rings. It is not fun. It is not Star Trek Next Generation. I wanted to interact with the characters and have like a storyline to play out and, you know, maybe have like an episode specific to this game to play through, and we didn't get it. I was mad. Luckily, I spent eBay bucks to get that, so I didn't pay anything out of pocket. About to be taking a trip through the full classic series again here soon. Star Trek? Yeah. Next Gen's always been my favorite. Voyager's creeping up the ranks. I cannot stand Voyager at all. I can't. I was just talking about this with a couple of friends I went out to dinner with last week. Star Trek The Motion Picture was playing in theaters for the 40th anniversary for like 2 days, and we went and saw it, and while we were eating dinner, we started talking about like episodes of the show, and they started talking about, yeah, we just started watching Voyager, and I was just like, nope, I will not watch that show ever again. I can't stand it. Hate the characters. I hate that it's a ripoff of Next Generation. They actually copy episodes of Next Generation. What do they do to draw new viewers? Put a set of tits out there for everyone to see. I couldn't stand it. Deep Space Nine is my jam, though. I just like the fact that it's darker and more realistic, when it comes to, like, not every episode ends with a happy ending. But anyway, off topic. Back to the games. Star Tropics. One of my favorite games from back in the day. This is one of the games that I actually got, like, when it first came out, I think. Yes, 1990. I remember I bought this. This is one of the games I got full price. And I absolutely love it. It's an adventure game, yeah. There's a weird mechanic where, like, you're in an overworld, and then when you go into, like, a level, like a dungeon or whatever, it, like, zooms in, and you're doing this weird hopping mechanic thing that I always thought was kind of strange, but it's fun once you get the hang of it. And the thing is, when I bought this nowadays, like, I bought this, like, in 2013 or 2014, when it showed up, all it had in it was the cartridge, the sleeve, the protective sleeve, and the manual, and the box, and the styrofoam insert. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, there's something missing, isn't there? I'm like, I know there was something else that came with this game, but I hadn't played it since, like, it first came out. And I was like, oh, wait, there was that note that came with the game that you had to, like, dunk in water, and it had, like, a secret message that would help you pass a part of the game. I'm like, shit, I still need that. And I went through a bunch of paperwork that I had in a box. I had, like, when I moved, I had just thrown all this paperwork that I had. I had a tote under my bed, and I just threw everything in there that I didn't want out in the open. It was like a junk drawer, and I basically had this tote. And I threw it in a my storage container, and I went through it, going like, maybe I'll find some things in here that I can use for gaming. There might be maybe those Saturn backings that I ended up realizing I had thrown away were in there too, and I found shit. Come back here. I found the letter. This is the same one that I had from when I bought the game back in 1990. The exact same one. It probably still smells like my spit. No, I actually dunked this in water. My friend Gary, when he did this, he licked the paperwork, and I was like, I'm not doing that. You don't know where that's been. I dunked this in water. And like down here beneath the the Shamrock, there's like a hidden message that'll only show up if the paperwork gets wet. You forgive me one day. I'm sorry. But the game is fantastic, and I played this until completion. This is one of the few games I actually beat back in the day. I had like this weird habit of like, because I was buying new games almost every week at one point from KB Toys, when because they were doing that clearance thing, that like I would like play a game for a little while, and then like start on a new one, and then play another game, play that new game for a little while, and then start on a new one without completing any of them. So there was like this chunk of time where like every game I had, I was not playing to completion. And it still kind of happens nowadays, like a lot. But Star Tropics is one of the few ones that I actually beat. Played this one to death. It is crap. I don't like it, but whatever. It is Star Wars. This is the other game I got at Gen Con when I bought The Last Starfighter. And found this complete in box just sitting there for like $25. I was like, give it to me now. And because it was Star Wars, I absolutely had to have this when it first came out back in the day. And it's not really like the movie a whole lot. I mean, I don't remember all these weird caves and shit you're exploring. And I don't remember Luke spelunking at all. I don't remember there being like radar dishes that you're going to run into when he was driving his land speeder around and all that kind of stuff. But whatever. It's a video game. Of course, they have to make changes. I just didn't like the design of it. I didn't. That's my problem. And it's really hard. Really, really hard. And the music, it's like all the music from all 3 Star Wars movies. You couldn't replicate any of it for this game, except the title. Okay. Disappointment. And then when it comes to Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, I rented this one because I was not a big fan of this one. I didn't want to spend like all my money on it. So I rented it, and I pretty much said, I will never buy this game because it is so difficult. I will never be able to play this to completion. I do not want to own this ever. And the only time I have actually spent money to purchase it was when I picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic last year. And I was like, well, I want all those Star Wars console games. I'm going to have to break my old rule. Rules are made to be broken, I guess. And it's still hard as hell. I can't figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do. Those Tauntaun levels are insanely hard. Star Wars, Peter? Oh, welcome, Peter. I just noticed that you're here. The SNES versions of Star Wars? No, those are way better games. Way better. Yeah, you were there when I got that, Jason. Yep, you were there. I had that stack. That was the seller who was selling the games that belonged to that member of the Atari Age forums who passed away. And they were selling that guy's games because that dude's daughter, the guy who died, his daughter wanted to go to college. And they had gotten permission from that dude who died's wife to sell his collection to raise money for that guy's daughter to go to college. And when I found that out, I was like, I do not have a problem with buying all these games from you. Like, let's go. Just give me. I was like, I'm helping somebody out. I'm glad to do so. And I did. And I think that was the same guy that I bought that Duke Nukem 3D for the Saturn that was signed by John St. John. I think that was the same guy from the year before that I got that from this year. Strider, hate this game. Hate it. I had this back in the day. Actually, my brother got it for Easter. And we thought it was okay then. Then I played the Genesis version. It turns out that this was supposed to be a port of the arcade game, that the Genesis is a more faithful port of, but they turned this into something else, and I cannot stand it nowadays. I got this from my buddy Felix the Brett off of Facebook, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that Strider game being pretty good, although I remember it not being anything like the Genesis game, which was like the direct port of the arcade version. And when I booted this up, this was like 2014, 2015, I booted this up, and I was like, what the hell is this? I can't stand this game now. I can't. I just can't do it. What's going on, Sebastian? How's it going? Just got here. I'm at work, so I'm lurking. Creeper. Here's another repro I got from... God, what time is it? Oh, I've been streaming for an hour and a half. Wow. I got this repro from Shantendo64 off of Instagram. I've been wanting a copy of this game forever because I purchased like a legit copy of it from the Nintendo eShop to play on my 3DS, and I absolutely loved it. The music is fantastic. It is Rekka Summer Carnival 92, or Summer Carnival 92 Rekka. I think this was a game that it was only released in Japan, obviously. I think this was like to coincide with a festival. Summer Carnival. And it didn't get like a huge wide release. I think it was like only maybe available at the festival that year. I cannot be sure. I should probably look it up on Wikipedia or something. It's a vertically scrolling shmup, and it is insanely hard. But oh my god, the music! This game had a special chip in it, like Castlevania 3 in Japan. That it sounds like almost real music. I mean, it has like real bass and like real like drum samples in it. It's crazy. And the gameplay is awesome. I enjoy this one a lot. It is super fun, even though it is difficult as all hell. But it's one of those games that's not so difficult, it's not going to turn me off, because I just keep wanting to play it again and get better. Which is why I like this one as much as I do. Captain Algebra's favorite game of all time, Super C. I, too, prefer this to the original Contra, because of the more varied gameplay. Well, not varied gameplay. It's just more polished. How about that? But yeah, there's top-down levels, and there's, in place of like those levels where you're inside the fortresses, this one has like these top-down view levels like Legend of Zelda that are pretty cool also. And I got jaundice again. Let's go. Fix yourself, camera. There we go. I think it's the shirt. Normally I usually wear like a black shirt when I'm using this webcam to film my videos, and I think this green shirt combined with certain colors of the games is like setting it off. Oh, this is I got this from Limited Run Games. This is because of Golf Story. Golf. In the game of Golf Story, golf is called Golf. And I saw it being advertised when they were selling Golf Story, the physical version of Golf Story for the Switch on Limited Run. They were selling the shirt to go along with it. There was 2 of them, and I got both of them because I was like, hey, new shirts. They're gaming related. Let's do it. And this one just made me laugh, so Golf. This is not my color, by the way. I'm a black t-shirt kind of guy. I do not wear green, like lime green or whatever this is. Aqua. But Super C is awesome. Took me forever to get a copy of this, and it is a criminal sin that it took me so long. I didn't get this back in my collection. Like, I started collecting again in 2013. I didn't get this into my collection, I think, till 2016. And it's one of the most common freaking games out there, but getting it with a box is a thing. Super Mario Brothers. Really expensive in the box by itself without Duck Hunt and all that kind of stuff, because you'd always get a copy of this game with your Nintendo, and it was just the cartridge. It never had a box. Eventually, they started selling it in a box, and there are very limited quantities of this, I guess. It didn't get a big release standalone like this, so it cost a little bit to get it, but not too much. I was okay with spending that kind of money. But the one that I love is Mario Brothers 2. I love playing as Toad. Toad life. Toad hype. And Super Mario Brothers 3, the game that made the Fred Savage sign up to do The Wizard. That movie is nothing but a commercial for this game, to let every kid know this is coming and it's going to be epic. The movie was not that good as far as I'm concerned. I still enjoy it, but it's not a good movie. But yeah, everyone considers this to be like the best Mario game on the NES. I still consider it to be Mario 2, even though it's not really a Mario game. I like it the most. That's the one I played the most. That's the one that I got for, I think, the following Christmas. I absolutely loved it. Toad's my man. Toad's my dude. Yeah, I said it. Over Horizon for PAL NES while I was in the UK. Amazing game, just expensive. Over Horizon. Isn't that one of those, it was like the people that made Romancing, what was it called? Romance of the Three Kingdoms or something like that. It was a strategy game, isn't it? Here's a repro. One of the few repros I was able to get from, what are they called? Shit. Time Walk Games. Time Walk. When I got back into collecting in 2013, I was just going for the games that were officially released, and then like somebody turned me on to the whole repro thing. I'm like, what are these? What are you talking about? And, they're games that weren't released over here. You can get them on a cartridge that you can play on your normal console and don't have to buy a Famicom to do so. And I was directed to Time Walk Games. I think from someone's post on Facebook, actually. And I went over there and I lost my mind a little bit. I was like, wow, all these games look amazing, like Corcoran and Super Back to the Future 2 for the Super Nintendo and all that. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, a horror game for the NES? I have to have it. Sweet Home. I was able to buy 3 games from Time Walk Games, and then they closed their doors forever because they got overwhelmed, and they were like, no, we have families and outside lives, and all we're doing is making repros all day and night. So they shut their doors, and this is the last game I ever got from them before they shut their doors. And I was glad that I did, because they put together a pretty cool package. I mean, the box looks like a legit Capcom box. It's a little thick, but that's okay. The reason I wanted it was, look at that. Blood red. And it still smells like spray paint. After all these years, I got this in 2014, and it still smells like the spray paint that they used to make this red. That is nuts! Came with a legit-looking manual. I think this is a map. Yeah, and a map. Cheaters. Oh, man. I loved Time Walk Games. Even though, like, I'm sure that if I were to go and grab the other games that I bought from them, that they'd still smell like spray paint. That's crazy that all this time and it still stinks. That was one of the only complaints I had. I'm like, why are you spray painting these things? Can't you just, like, have, like, a mold made and make your own? Instead of, like, sacrificing a real cart and just painting it? Like, dude, what is wrong with you guys? But, look, they put effort into it, and I was thankful for that. And I was able to get an awesome... It's an RPG. It's a horror RPG. It's like it predates Resident Evil. It's like the spiritual predecessor, I guess, of Resident Evil. And it's based on a really shitty movie that came out in Japan. I actually have it downloaded on my computer, and I have yet to watch it because it looks so bad. But yeah, it's a licensed game, technically. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, Sweet Home is awesome. The music gets on my nerves a little bit because it's really tinny at times, but it's so cool. Horror RPG. Why aren't there more of those? It smells like spray paint. Here's another game that uses that 4-score adapter for the NES, the 4-player adapter. And I never played it 4-player, but I did play this at my friend Charlie's house. He's the same guy that got Nightmare on Elm Street and Silver Surfer. I played it at his place. He had this game. He talked his grandmother into buying it for him because he's a huge D&D fan, and anything RPG-esque, fantasy-like was right up his alley. So I played this at his house. It's Swords and Serpents. It's like playing Wizardry, I guess, where you have the window that's like your point of view. It's in the first person. It's your point of view, and you're going through dungeons. I got the hiccups all of a sudden. You can see what it's like. It's actually pretty fun. I like it a lot. It's a lot easier than, say, an Ultima game. What is up, back in the day gamer? Dude, Tony, I need to talk to you. I just remembered, like, yesterday about that collab that you wanted me to do. And I totally forgot about it. I totally apologize. I am so sorry that I totally forgot about it. Are you still doing it? Because this weekend I'm going to be recording some new stuff, and I will do it for you this weekend. Promise. I will not screw it up. So remind me what it is, and I will definitely get that to you if you're still doing it. Okay, so Swords and Serpents. Remember I said I wouldn't buy this game normally because it had roller skates in it and stuff like that, but I did anyway nowadays because I'm like, for a while I was trying to get all the LJN games. What the hell is Yume Penguin Monogatari? The movie? Are you talking about Sweet Home? Yeah, I still haven't seen it. I remember watching the trailer for it and going like, that looks special. I need to watch it. Maybe I'll do it this weekend. TNC, what is this? TNC Country Design. What? I can never remember. Surf Designs. Oh, I can never remember the name of this game. Because there's like, it says one thing on the label here, then it's all this Wood, Water, and Rage thing, and then on the side it says something totally different. The Penguin Thin? Huh. I remember there was one where, it might be from a Sega Master System game where like you play as a penguin and you got to jump over like cracks and stuff like that. You're like racing into the screen. I can't remember what game that is. I don't know. I don't think it's the same one though. Swords and Serpents. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. But TNC Surf Designs. It's part surfing, part skateboarding, and I think it also has roller skating. Maybe? No, maybe it's just that. It's not a good game. I'll say that. It's not a good game. Kind of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I also got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. This one is a side-scrolling action game. There's like swimming, and there's all this driving around in an overworld, and it's just weird. This has the feeling that it was not a Ninja Turtles game, and somebody said, hey, let's turn that into a Ninja Turtles game and try to make some of that bank, because it's super popular. We'll just slap the title on it, and everyone will buy it, thinking, yes, we're going to get a legit Turtles game. No, you didn't. You got something really bizarre that doesn't feel like it has anything to do with Ninja Turtles. But I played the crap out of it when I was a kid, because, you know what? You bought games, you played them, because you weren't going to get them very often. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, goddamn, this game is fantastic. It's a pretty decent port. I remember playing the arcade game all the time. Still haven't made up my mind if I'm going to buy that arcade 1-up that has all those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games in it. I might. I don't know if I have room for it. I can make room if I really wanted to. I don't know if I will. But this was as close as you were going to get to the arcade without buying the arcade cabinet. And it was actually pretty fun. I do not remember how much Pizza Hut stuff is in here. Okay, so this was the game I was talking about when I was trying to capture all the footage from the games that I had purchased at the Midwest Gaming Classic this year. And all of them except one, because it didn't work. This was the game that I popped it in when I got home, and the cartridge did not work at all. But I sold it to Half Price Books. Shh, they don't know. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I wanted this because LGN. I kind of wanted all the LGN games. It's kind of a mini goal. I'm not really like too... I'm not diehard onto that. If I can't get them all, I'll live. But I'm a huge Terminator 2 fan. It's one of my favorite films of all time. Just like Jason. Jason just got the arcade coin-op of the arcade game of this. A legit arcade game. He owns it now. That's awesome. I never played this one back in the day. I only played the Super Nintendo one, so I did not know what this was like. And the thing is, a lot of people complain about it, and I don't think it's actually that bad. I mean, it could have been a hell of a lot better. That's a given. It could have been a lot better. You can tell it was rushed out, but I didn't hate it while I was playing it. The music is awesome. The music is fantastic. LGN always had great music in their games, at least 90% of them. Everything that had to do with X-Men was garbage. But, yeah, I was not hating my time when I was actually playing this, when I got a legit copy, because tried to capture footage, would not boot up at all, went on eBay, found a loose cart, got the cart for like $6. So I was like, oh, that's not too bad. It's not a total loss. At least I got the instructions, the manual and the box itself, so I'm okay. So yeah, I'm actually not sad that I own this. It's not bad like everyone makes LJN games out to be. I thought it was kind of fun. They're wheelie boots. You talking Terminator 2? That's not that bad. There's Tetris. I don't need to talk about Tetris. It's Tetris. Everybody knows Tetris. Tetris. Picked this up at the Exchange. I went over there I think it was right after I went there with Captain Algebra. I went to this Exchange with Captain. We went to two different exchanges together and bought games at both of them. And there were certain games I remember seeing at one of them, and I went back there like the next week to get them. Now, with different paycheck. NES movie game. You said Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, dude, I'll get that to you this weekend. I'm so sorry that I just totally flaked on that. I totally forgot. So I picked up the Three Stooges there. Not that I really wanted this game, but when you see a complete in-box NES game that isn't like garbage, absolute garbage, for $5, you get it. And I did. It was $5, and I couldn't believe it. I even asked the guy, I'm like, what's wrong with it? Like, no NES game is like just $5. And he was just like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that, it's the Three Stooges. It's a licensed game. No one's going to buy that. And I was like, I will. I remember watching a friend of mine play the computer version of it, and I thought it was kind of fun. But the NES version is not that fun. It's actually kind of craptastic. But for $5, who cares? This is a game I did not realize was developed by Rare until I booted it up when I bought it in 2013, and that is Time Lord. It's one of these Milton Bradley games. Usually their games are not all that great. The only other game I think I have from them is Marble Madness, which was another game developed by Rare. So maybe for a while they were working for Milton Bradley before they started doing stuff for Trade West and for Nintendo. But yeah, Time Lord, it's okay. It's like a side-scrolling platformer. It's alright. It definitely feels like, oh, Rare, we just brought you over to develop games for the Nintendo. Figure it out on your own. And this is the game that resulted. They're like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. We'll figure it out eventually, I guess. Yeah, it's not that great. But here's an awesome game. I talked about this in a Top 3 Tuesday video I did with Jason, and that is Tiny Toon Adventures, side-scrolling platformer based on the cartoon, which everyone I knew in high school thought the cartoon was awesome, but I had kind of outgrown cartoons at that point, so I was like the only person in my group of friends who was not watching it. And I was like, every time they talk about it, I'd be sitting there going like, can we talk about Lethal Weapon 3? But it's awesome. It's so much fun. It's so colorful, and you get to play as all the different characters from the show. And it's a very simple platformer because, let's be honest, it was designed for kids. So it's not going to be super hard. Wow, this guy got dark. Lighten up, computer. There we go. Totally rad. Picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic last year at that table for that guy who passed away from Atari Age. This game is fantastic. This is like a guilty pleasure. If there ever was a guilty pleasure game, this is it. Because it's not that great, but it's fun, and it's weird, and it's quirky, and the bosses are huge, and there's a giant leprechaun guy with a P on his hat that talks shit to you all the time. The Great Zerbedian. I can never remember his name. The Great Zerbedian, Master Magician. But it's fun. It's like a side-scrolling Contra-style game, not like super actiony like Contra. You play as like this like totally hip kid who shoots laser beams out of his hands, and you're running around shooting aliens and shit. Here's a game I get a lot of crap for liking. Total Recall. Don't hate me. This was one of those games that I was just always renting because there was nothing else to play. Every time I would go to the local video store to rent something new, everything was out except for Total Recall, so I would rent it again because my parents would be like, hey, you're going to rent something? This is the time to do it. We're going to give you the $2 you need. So, yeah, you rent something. And I always ended up renting Total Recall. I think I rented this like 4 times, like consecutive weekends, like 4 consecutive weekends in a row. I ended up renting this because there was nothing else in. That probably wasn't a Barbie game. And I didn't like it when I first started playing because I had seen the movie. I love the movie. It's fantastic. The game didn't feel like the movie much. There's parts of it that resemble it. But I was like, why are there glory holes? There's like these fences that you'll walk by with little holes, and like they're fists that are coming out to punch you, but they look like dicks. Why would you think that's a good idea for a video game? Stupid. But I ended up playing it so much that I kind of grew to enjoy it, and I think that's a symptom of you rent it for 4 weekends in a row, you're going to eventually grow to like it. That's exactly what happened to me. So I have nostalgia for this craptastic game. I play it now, and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? I bought this at the very first Midwest Gaming Classic I went to in 2014. And like I was saying in the previous video based on the NES, that I had this thing where I was always ending up buying games that had that punch tab that would come out of that would flip out of the back of the original boxes, the hang tab. And every time I would buy a game that had that, they would never punched. And this is another one. This one has the hang tab, and it was never punched. So I got super lucky with this. Trojan is a game that I had back in the day. My parents bought it for me, I think, for my birthday. And I think it was because it was discounted, because this is an older game. I cannot tell you what year it was from. Does not say. Oh, 86. 86. God damn. Yeah, I think they got this discounted. They got it on clearance somewhere, and they're like, yeah, give it to Christmas birthday. He won't know any better. It's based on an arcade game. It's actually kind of fun. It's tricky. It's hard. But I still enjoy it because there's nostalgia behind it. And this is because of my dad. He was a huge Ultima fan, and I used to watch him play Ultima on his computers all the time. He played every single one of them. He was so into them, he had graph paper out, and he would draw maps about everything. He would write notes. It was crazy. He was insane. He was obsessed. And I kind of grew to love Ultima also. They don't hold up well anymore as far as I'm concerned. I was watching Sir HC Man stream Ultima 4, I think it's Quest for the Avatar, on Twitch. And I was like, yeah, that's what I remember. Like, back in the day when there hadn't been anything else like that around, that was new. It was exciting. It was cool to watch. Nowadays, it's kind of boring. But it's like a first person, or a first generation RPG. It's all overworld type stuff. And the story was what made it work. And it doesn't really hold up. Not like Vice Project Doom. I love this game. This game is fantastic. It's one of the ones that I think the Super Nintendo was out at that point in time. And I was kind of like not interested in the NES anymore. And every time I would go to Funko Land, I'd see this staring at me on the shelf. And I'd be like, that is the cheesiest action movie poster I have ever seen in my life. Why does that guy look like the asshole sensei from The Karate Kid? Because he does. Seriously, it looks like Martin Cove. And I was just like, no, I'm not buying that. And I'm sad that I didn't, because this is one of those games that has like all these different play types. There's side-scrolling action levels. There's driving levels. There's shooting gallery levels. It's amazing. It's varied. It's fun. I absolutely adore this game nowadays. And I was really mad at myself when I finally got around to playing this that I'd never picked it up back in the day. Here's an arcade game that got a port from Tengen. Vindicators, tank game. Nothing special. I remember enjoying it a little bit when I was a kid. I rented it, and I thought it was fun. It's kind of like Tank or Combat for the NES, just taken to the extreme. I bought this because of Rare. I didn't buy it because the game is any good. I bought it because it was developed by Rare. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It's a very bad game based on a very fun movie that I think still holds up. It's like an adventure game, not an action game, and it's just designed so bad. It's like, it feels to me like LJN was like, hey, Rare, we just got the license to the Who Framed Roger movie, or Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie. We want you to make a game out of it. Oh, good. When do you need it by? Next week? And that's what we got. That's what it feels like. It's so badly designed. I can't stand it. But I bought it because Rare. But here's a licensed game that, wow, another one I'm surprised I didn't buy back in the day. Willow. This is an action RPG that is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Totally Rad is awesome. I love Totally Rad. I didn't play it back in the day, but I love it now. Willow's a fantastic game. I think it was Renaissance was streaming this. I think you were streaming this. It is so fun. Like, seriously, who would know that Willow would make for a great RPG? I mean, the movie was a fantasy game, so obviously it would lend itself well to an RPG. But who thought that it would be able to make a good one? There's an arcade game that is like a side-scrolling Contra-style game where you play as Willow and your weapons are those freaking stones or nuts or whatever that he was using in the movie. And it's fun. It's a really fun side-scrolling platformer. But RPG or action RPG with Willow? Yes. Yeah, arcade. When we were at the Midwest Gaming Classic, Mosley, every night I would go to Church's room. Church and Cardboard Zero, they were sharing a room. We'd go to their room because Cardboard Zero had brought a RetroPie. And we would sit there and play games. The first night we didn't play any games. We ended up just watching Key and Peele episodes all night. But the second night, Saturday night, we were playing the RetroPie, and Cardboard Zero's buddy Chris was there, and he was playing arcade games. And I was like, hey, put the Willow game on. See how you like it. And he played it for a little while. He's like, yeah, that actually is pretty fun. So I turned somebody onto that. I'm going to talk about like an old school RPG. We got Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord. This is another one of those first-person dungeon crawl games. It's very basic, but that's what these games were back in the day. We didn't have super awesome PCs to play this kind of stuff on. One of my all-time favorites, Wizards and Warriors. Rare developed this game. First game I remember going like, wow, I need to watch out for those guys. Those guys are pretty good after Battletoads. And it's fantastic. It's a platformer with... I wouldn't say it has RPG elements. I mean, there's stuff you can buy and stuff you can acquire to make your character better. I don't know if that you'd consider that as an RPG. But this one is like the prototype, because I really like Iron Sword, even though you have to know exactly what you're doing in Iron Sword to beat that game. You have to have the memorization of a freaking elephant. Like, I'm surprised I still remember half the stuff I need to do in that game. And it was fun watching the Renaissance stream it, because he actually memorized the whole thing like within the space of a day, if I remember right. But yeah, this game is awesome. Rare developed Iron Sword also, but they did not develop Wizards and Warriors 3. Another company did. I cannot remember the name of it. It is on the back here somewhere, I'm sure. Well, it just says a claim. But this was not developed by Rare at all. This one's more of a... That was kind of the original ones were kind of an action-adventure game. This one's more of like, it feels like Castlevania to me. But it's very good as well. It's a tie. I like 1 and 3 the best. Oh, shit. I got another spillage almost happening. Don't you do it! We're getting close to the end, people. Almost 2 hours of streaming. Wrath of the Black Manta. Had this back in the day because ninjas. I want all the games with ninjas in it. Ninja Gaiden was awesome. I loved Shadow of the Ninja. Found this on clearance at KB Toys. Picked it up. And it is poo-poo! But I played the crap out of it because that's what you did with these games. And I bought it again because nostalgia. But it's a side-scrolling action game, and I remember there's parts that like it zooms in, and it's like a close combat type of situation. Your characters are really big. Controls like ass. I was very disappointed in you, Taito. Worm. It's a side scroll. I want to say it's like playing Blaster Master, but it's different. It's like a side scrolling action game, but it has like Blaster Master-esque thing going on. You're like underground in this drill tank thing. It's okay. I got this in a lot with, I think, this was the other game I got when I bought Metroid. And what was the other game? I can't remember. Fuck. Anyway, not important. That was the third game I could not remember. Okay. I really liked the arcade game of this because it looked like Alien, and it had like aliens type things going on in it. And I never owned the home port of it ever. But when I got back into collecting, sometimes you're like, hey, remember that game I always wanted? Let's just buy it now because now I actually have money. And sometimes that doesn't play out the way you think it would. And that's Xenophobe. I remember playing this in the arcade and loving it, but nowadays this game does not hold up at all. It is so bad. And for Sunsoft, you would think that Sunsoft would have been able to make a great port of this. But I'm kind of curious now. I want to go back and try the arcade game again if I can find it somewhere and see if it still holds up too. Because this does not. This game is so bad. Ninja Scroll and Lady Snowblood both need NES homebrew games. I would do it. There's a Ninja Scroll live action movie out there too. I've been in search of a multi-cade plug-in arcade dealing with the Willow Arcade, but no prevail. They have them at the Midwest Gaming Classic. They have like those tabletop ones that are maybe like, yay high or whatever. I was going to buy one. I think they're like $600. I was going to buy one the second year that I went to Midwest Gaming Classic, but they're like $600. And I was like, no. I was going to buy one that was like all Tron themed, but they have like 500 arcade games in it. And the thing is, Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming, he has one of those Pandora arcade stick things that has like 1,000 some arcade games in it, and I think he said it was in there. And that thing's only like $150 to $200, so I do that. And it has HDMI that plugs into your TV. Pick this up at People Play Games. Zexus. It's a shmup, side-scrolling shmup. It's okay. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that. Bought this for like $5, and I was like, why not? And this game is super clean. Like, the box is amazing. It's almost immaculate. I could probably have this graded. Yoshi's Cookie. It's like a variation on Tetris or Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine or Puyo Puyo, whatever you want to call it, but it's with cookies. I think that was one of the last games released for the NES, if I'm not mistaken. Xanic. It's another shmup, vertical scrolling shmup. It's okay. And here we go. I don't know how many people are streaming this. Every time I go on Twitch, someone is streaming this game. Like, it's that popular. And I think it's because this game got so much crap back in the day that I remember everyone hated it because it was nothing like the first game in the series. And I think nowadays everyone's rediscovering it and actually finding out that it's actually a really good game. And it's something that I knew from the beginning. Like I said, Rambo, I thought was a clone of this. Turns out it was the other way around. Rambo was actually a clone of this. Legend of Zelda 2, Adventure of Link. I think this game is fantastic. I do. I love it. I absolutely love it. Because it was different. My thinking was when I was a kid was, I remember everyone was bitching about Mario Brothers 2 being nothing like Mario Brothers 1. That's because there was a Mario Brothers 2 released in Japan that was exactly like Mario Brothers 1 with a couple of other gameplay tweaks added into it. But it was deemed too hard, so we didn't get it. So they turned another game that was completely unrelated into a Mario game and gave that to us instead because we're stupid Americans that can't handle any challenges. Castlevania 2 was nothing like the first game. Zelda 2 was nothing like the first game. That's not a bad thing for me because I don't want to keep playing the exact same game over and over again. A lot of people seem to want to do that back in the day. It's the same problem everyone seems to have with the Matrix sequels. Everyone wanted the first movie all over again. They got something different, and they hated it. I didn't. Because I did not want to watch The Matrix all over again. If I want to watch The Matrix, I'll watch The Matrix. Anyway, off topic. Zelda 2 is awesome. It's more of... The original game was an adventure game. This one is kind of like a light RPG. A light action RPG. There's an overworld where you play as little tiny little Link and you're going around and, finding caves to go into and what are they called, the shrines and all that, so you can get those what are the crystals or whatever. Yeah, the crystals, so you can bring Zelda out of her coma. Very Shadow of the Colossus-esque, if you ask me. You had to go into towns and talk to people and get clues. Some of them were not helpful at all, like I am error. What? And then when you would go into a dungeon or a shrine or whatever, it would turn into a side-scrolling action game that was very RPG-esque because you would get experience points for killing bad guys. And it would level your character up, and you can level up your magic, you can level up your health. Was it magic, health? Was it strength or something? I can't remember. And the very last NES game I have in my collection, Zoda's Revenge Star Tropics 2. This is similar to the first game, but there is no overworld stuff anymore, if I remember correctly. I have not played this one very much, because I remember playing it back in the day when it first came out and going like, this isn't what the first game was. I was just talking about how, you know, like video games like Zelda 2 and Mario 2 and all that were different from the original game and that people hated them. For some reason, this was the game that happened to me with. I was like, wow, this isn't really anything like, or it's not like the exact same thing as the first game was. And I kind of liked that there was the overworld and then the close-up jumping around on switches thing. This is just all the close-up jumping around on switches. So I kind of missed that aspect of it. It's kind of like ActRaiser. Why would you make a sequel to ActRaiser that takes out the God mode and just gives you all platforming levels and make those platforming levels god-awful? For some reason, that was what this was to me. I need to actually sit down and actually play through this. I should probably play through both of them in a row. If I had the ability to stream such a thing, I would do it, but I don't. But I've given up on the streaming anything anyway. So, all right, that is it for my NES collection. I have a lot of stuff. According to my phone, I have like a cataloging thing here. According to my phone, when it comes to the NES, I have 202 CIB games. Not all of them are legit. Some of them are repros. But for the most part, yes, it is the legit stuff that I've purchased over the last 6 years. That's a lot. I'm kind of getting to the point where I have most of the stuff I want. I'm not going for a complete NES collection in any way, shape, or form. I'm actually kind of out of room for NES games. I need to start rearranging things in order to get them to fit where they are. But I think there's maybe 20 more NES games out there that I kind of want, and then I might be done collecting for the NES permanently. But we'll see. You never know. I might get some ROMs and try some games I never played before and be like, oh my god, these games too, add them to the list. You never know. With me, it's always something. So, the next live video game collection video I'm going to do is going to be about the Sega Master System and the Sega Genesis and the Sega CD. So it's going to be Master System, Sega Genesis, Sega CD. I'm going to split it in half also because, you can see the Genesis stuff right back here. There's a lot of it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves. One shelf of Sega Master System and one shelf of Sega CD. There's a lot. So I'm going to split that up into 2 videos also over 2 different days because I do not want to lose my voice like I'm doing right now. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. So thank you everybody for joining me today. Sorry about the whole silent treatment I was giving you for the first 5 minutes of the video where my microphone was turned off for some reason in the program for streaming. Don't ask me why. It's just the way it was. But I really appreciate every one of you coming down here. As long as you're enjoying it, I'll keep doing it. I don't have to do these. If no one's watching them, I wouldn't do them. But you guys seem... Mosley's been here the entire time. Damn. I appreciate it very much. So I will talk to you next Thursday with my Sega series video for the collection. And I don't know if I'm going to be having a new Top 3 Tuesday video out, but I'm definitely going to be working on the new Movies That Will Make Great Video Games collab Part 4. I need to get that one out because there's people that have given me videos probably 8 months ago that I still need to work on making this video happen for them so they don't feel like I asked them to do something that has no payoff. And I definitely need to make that video for Tony. So, Tony, you're going to get that video for me this weekend. So, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I am Chris, the Old Ass Retro Gamer, signing off. Have a great night, everybody, and I will see you next week.